So 53%. 53% is the number of buyers who said that a vendor who lost the deal could have actually won the deal had they changed something during that buying process, okay? Had they done something differently? And by they, we mean the seller, the salesperson. So 53%. How does that make you feel? Let me know in chat. Do you feel good about that figure? Do you feel bad about that figure? Other emotions are available, so please use your full emotional repertoire and put it into chat for me. How do you feel to know that 53% of the deals that your company is losing could have actually translated into revenue and your bottom line? Let me know so I can see them coming in now. Ouch. Yes, Frank. Yikes, says Jessica. It does hurt, Mylin, and I'm sorry about that. If anybody is comfortable sharing, if this feels, just like Jeanette did, sounds about right, and the ability to make change. So, Jeanette, what I'm hearing from you is that, oh, unfortunately, that probably is the current situation. But I also see that there is the possibility to change in there, and that's what I want you to focus on. So it is not just price. No, it is not, my friend Sadia. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Jessica, surprising. I hope I can surprise you with many of the data points as well. Ollie, it's also losing a chance to serve more. I love that that's how you feel about sales and the fact that you're not selling stuff and things just for the sake of it. You are providing a service to be helpful, to serve your clients, to serve your customers. I love that. So when I look at this, I kind of have something that's a mix of all your comments so far. I definitely feel ouch, and I'm definitely agreeing with Jeanette that I see an opportunity. Because what I see is the Venn diagram between those two. Yes, it is depressing that this is the current state of affairs, but also this just means that I can change it, okay? Because what they were talking about is behaviors. Oh, my pen doesn't want to work. Behaviors and actions that the sellers took, okay? So that means that if we change these behaviors and actions, we can actually impact this 53% and actually reduce it. And this really, the sense of having to change behaviors and actions is where I have the biggest conflict of emotions. Part of me goes, brilliant, and part of me goes, great. You let me get this straight. You just want me to change people. Super simple, isn't it? Learning and development professionals. Super simple. Tapping into the Venn diagram, absolutely. And let me know how you feel about, changing people's behaviors as well. But let's look at actually what you can do, what tangible steps you can either take right now or think about taking with your sellers, with your organization to actually do this. Find and fix the blind spots that cause you to lose your deals. Okay. So we're going to talk about both sides of that equation. You can't fix what you don't know. So you need to do both sides of the equation. So with that in mind, let's just start breaking down what I've shared with you so far. So some of you may be thinking 53%, Catherine, you say that with confidence. How do you know that number? How on earth can you know that that is the number of deals that are winnable? We know because we've asked people. That's 500 companies, over 50 industries. That's 100,000 business to business purchase decisions. And we've done that over 20 years. Now, we appreciate there are two sides to every story. So we ask both the buyers and the sellers in either a win or loss situation, what went into that outcome? What happened? What didn't happen? So let's talk about the sellers first. I'm obsessed with buyers. We're going to linger with those the most, but let's actually acknowledge what the sellers said. So into chat, if I were to come along, or if you were to come along and ask your sellers right now, what would your sellers say are the top reasons that they currently lose deals? Let's just see if you reflect what our research and what our conversations. Paul, you typed that so fast. I think it was already loaded in, my friend. I think you were waiting for it. Paul says price. If you're agreeing with it, product, says Mylin. Thank you very much. There are no right or wrong answers, by the way, just your answer. So Jana, confidence, interesting. Ollie, when there's too much pressure to make the sale, let the person take time to decide. Oh, so it's that sense of we push too hard, we push too fast, those things. One said a solution doesn't fit customer need. Sadia says brokers are friendly towards a specific carrier price bundling product. So yes, a preference elsewhere. All of these are your reasons. Let's show you the reasons that we found in our research. Pricing, you win, Paul. I'm not sure you win, mate. Sorry. But yes, lots of sellers go, we lost because of pricing. Somebody else, one, you said solutions. We just use the word features, but we're talking about the same things. Or an uncontrollable event. I would actually maybe put that, Sadia, into what you're talking about, which is a preference for a different human, and therefore I went a different way. So that is what sellers are saying, why they lose deals. Now, not listening to the real needs. Absolutely, Ollie. Now let's flip it. When you ask sellers why they win deals, I'm not going to ask you into chat. If you want to, you're more than welcome, but I will plot spoil. The summary of the answers of sellers of why they lose deals can only be described as heroics. It was something I did. It was my brilliance. It was my, I am exaggerating. But what we mean by heroics is that if we looked at all the answers, the theme was they were very individual to that person and therefore unable to be replicated and definitely not scaled in any series in any serious way. So therefore that data is a little bit unhelpful. So let's flip it and let's look at what we actually found out when we asked the buyers. We asked the buyers, same deals. When you didn't buy from vendor X, what were the reasons? Okay. And what they spoke about is the 53%. So the previous slide and all of your answers probably fall into the 47% of why you lose deals. And sometimes you're just not going to win a deal because of price or something very, very genuine. But in those deals that you could have won, they are missteps as defined by the buyer. And what came through loudest were the following three things. Number one, presenting little or no competitive difference. In 79% of buyers' responses, this came through. Why did you pick vendor A over vendor B? There was no competitive differentiation. Ooh, but eminently changeable. Number two, these are in order. Poor needs discovery or lack of solution alignment. It's like you knew the answer, Ollie. This was actually 3 times more likely to show up in deals lost than it was in deals won. Sorry, the other way around. When there was clear solution alignment, you were 3 times more likely to win the deal. Apologies, it's the end of my day. And then a lack of timely response or that sense that there just wasn't willingness on the seller to respond to their needs. So a lack of responsiveness, which as a human is really, really understandable. We want to feel important. We want our needs met. You can get this research, Travis. I see your Q&A. You are going to get an email after this event and you are going to have direct links to all of this research. There'll be 3 links in there, and the first one will be this. So don't worry, it's coming, my friend. So what does that all mean? Okay, the first thing, you're welcome. The first thing that I am going to say loudly and on repeat is if you change nothing else after your time with me, if you change nothing else, the change I want you to make is actually this first one. Okay, to listen to your customers, to your buyers. That is how you find the real problems, okay? And then we'll talk about what you can do to fix them. And of course, coaching is in there. And of course, monitoring and amending and flexing, all of those things that you're really comfortable with are in there here. But the first one I want to double down on. Why? Because it makes the other ones easier, because it makes the other ones more specific. So I'd be really interested to know into chat, does anybody right now take customer feedback from their customers, either win-loss analysis or midway through a deal or a pursuit, whatever you call them? Does anybody already take this customer feedback? If so, let's celebrate yourself in chat. Love it, Sadia. You do a debrief after a loss. Interesting that you only do losses, not wins. I'm going to challenge you and see if you could actually include wins as well. I think there's something to learn from both sides of this equation. And if you're not doing this already, no problem. That's one opportunity where you can change and you can do something differently. Okay. So actual customer feedback. Why is this so important? It's so important because the research tells us so. Let's look at the research and let's look at what most organizations doing. And this, I have sat here myself, I have been a seller, I've also been a customer. And what most organizations do is they have a CRM system, okay? And the person that interacts with the CRM system is the seller. So everything is told from their viewpoint. They input the data into it. And that is valid. I am not saying don't do this. This absolutely needs to happen. But the person out in the cold is your customer over here. Okay. And it is interesting. 38 people, only one person said they asked their customer. Opportunity to change. What the research shows, and this is our research and the research of Gartner, okay? Now, our research actually had this as a range. Our research actually said it was between 50 to 70% inaccuracy. Gartner actually said it was 70%. So I'm showing that number because it feels a little bit more dramatic. What we mean by that is when customers ask both the seller and the buyer why a deal was either won or lost, in 70% of the time, the answers were different. What does that mean? That means that if you are only relying on half of this equation, your data could be inaccurate, and you could be coaching and you could be fixing and you could be teaching and you could be strategizing against the wrong things. To get the full picture, you absolutely have to put the customer into your process, into your CRM. Now, for the rest of this time, I'm going to actually talk about how we at CVI do this. This isn't to say that this is the perfect way. Can we help you with it? Absolutely. But there are other ways that you can do it. But what I want you to hear loudest from me is please just do it, okay, in whatever way that you can. So by putting your customer into your CRM, you are actually getting the full 360. It is not a biased view, and biases are human and very understandable. We have 163 of them, for goodness sakes. Like, we can't avoid them as humans, but you have the full 360 view on what is actually happening. Now, what that actually means and what that enables you to do is understand what the deficits are, what you need to teach against, what you need to coach against, and what you need to train against. Wouldn't that be great to know? Now, I know some of you are thinking, but Catherine, our customers wouldn't tell us. I'm going to share that it's not a perfect process. I absolutely understand that. We have been doing this for 20 years, and I appreciate we do this for ourselves and we do it as a third party. So we ask our customer's customer why they didn't buy from our customer, if that makes sense. And we actually find that when asked, 30 to 40% is the response rate. So it's not a perfect data collection, but it absolutely does give you statistically relevant data to act upon. And quite frankly, I would take the statistics from 30, 40% versus 0% over here. I don't know about you. So that's the big ask that I want to push upon you. Ask your customers for your feedback. Now, asking them for feedback is great, but you know, because we're all humans, that you need to ask them specifically for feedback. Because what could happen is a seller, any seller, let's just call them Catherine for ease, could go, well, that's feedback, but it doesn't apply to me. So what you need to do, just because humans are humans and we like to dismiss potential problems or challenges that we're having, what you need to do is remove that as an option and let each individual seller see this isn't a problem. This is a problem that I am experiencing. Okay, so how do you do that? On screen right now, we obtain actual feedback against 8 moments that we know matter. Now, you are going to get this this deck after the presentation, but if there's any one slide that you screenshot, I'm going to tell you it's this one. Okay, so there you go. I won't write on it for a moment. But what this does and what we have chosen to do so that sellers can't dismiss the feedback, so we can leverage it fully in our coaching and in our strategy and in our planning, is actually to obtain feedback against behaviors and actions that the buyer can easily identify, that are done by an individual and that we know through our research move the needle. So these are in a linear fashion. They are not ordered in any way. In the research that I mentioned that you'll get after in the links, there will be some more information on this. We refer to it as the Great Eight because, funnily enough, there's 8 of them. So therefore, and again, Ollie, it's like you knew the answer. Align products to solutions needs is one of the key moments in landing a sale. So these are the 8 moments that we ask for feedback against a seller from a seller. against. And how we do that is two ways. We ask for quantitative feedback and we ask for qualitative feedback. So against each of these at the top, this is literally how it's presented to our customers. We actually ask them how well each seller performed. Now, we're not asking them in like just an ethereal, woolly way. What we're asking is compared to other sellers in this buying process, how well did seller A, Catherine, compare against seller B, Ollie? I hope you don't mind me using your name there, Ollie. And therefore, they are giving numeric answers 1 through 7. And where there are the extreme answers given, either high or low, we ask for more quantitative data. So this is how we do it. And again, why we're doing it, it's about an individual seller and it is actions that we can change and that the buyer can actually put their finger on and say, yes, that happened. Now, what that means is that you, as an L&D person, as sales enablement, whatever your job title role is, you can actually look at this as a holistic. So this is what it looks like on our system. What it looks like, this is the full report from a single customer. Here are the 8 questions that we looked at. Here is how the seller performed. Here, because we do this for many organizations, is how that seller compares against the organization if we were to average out all of the feedback that we received. And when we're to look at the people who we consider best in class at each of these are their scores. So that gives you data, 360 data that is actionable and tangible on your seller's behavior. And I just want you to think about this. If this was doable, what would the impact be on your sales leaders, on your coaches, on the decisions that you make about training for sellers? Like this level of data, what impact could it have? If you're comfortable sharing in chat, share in chat. But if not, I just want you to think about it because I've been a leader for years. And honestly, this is gold. Just having this level of specificity, and it comes not from just what I observe, but from our customer. That third perspective, that third point of view definitely gives a different angle. And that angle is provable. And we'll talk about that in a moment. So this is just further detail on what it can look like from the buyer's point. Now, why am I saying very loudly that you should do this? Because of this research. This research was done in conjunction with Florida State University. And what it does is it shows the impact of sellers. They were compared in 2 years, 2022. I'm just going to color that in for you, and 2023. And as you can see in the top line, none of the sellers received any customer feedback. And on the left-hand side, you can see that there were 7,000 reps involved in this study and their win rates. Now, we then divided the sellers into 2 groups. And in 2023, we actually provided 50% of the sellers with customer feedback. And what we saw is that those sellers who received customer feedback did 40% better. They had a 40% improvement in their win rate. Now, for my statistical nerds, of which I am one, I appreciate that this is not actually a direct cause and effect. It is correlation, but it is statistically relevant enough for me to get excited about it. Couple of pieces in the details for those of you who enjoy details. The magic number in terms of, well, how much feedback, Catherine? This sounds exhausting going to all of our customers. What are you meaning? 3 deals a year. If you think about how many deals or how many sales pursuits your sellers are involved in per year, what percentage is 3 of them? Under 1%? Let me know in chat. How many deals, what percentage of deals would be 3 deals? Because that is the number that was the tipping point. Were there marginal gains if you could get them more feedback? Absolutely. But 3 was the number where something happened that all of a sudden this gave you enough data and the sellers could go, it wasn't a one-off, because one-offs can happen. Humans are humans. I get it. There was enough data for them to go, I see a theme, I hear the theme. Now let's think about, therefore, what is happening and why I am excited about this correlation. This correlation impacts the human brain in a couple of ways that for us L&D people, sales enablement people, can be really excited. Because let's remember early on, I shared with you my very honest emotions about the Venn diagram of being able to change this, but then also knowing that I have to change it. So into chat for me, when I just write down the word change on my screen, how do you feel? How do you feel about the word change? It disappeared. I don't know why it disappeared. I'll find it. Into chat for me, how do you all feel about the word change? You can have a wide range of emotions, no problem whatsoever. The only constant, there we go, Paul. I'd love to know the tone of your voice as you share that, my friend. And I love the fact that Sadia also said it was the same thing. We need to listen to the client and do many things to foster feedback. We do. Barbara, always needed and everyone hates it. There's an honest answer. Effort. Thanks, Travis. Your range of answers is going to reflect the range of answers that humans in general have about change. There's lots of research. It's necessary. I love that, Frank. Good for you. Good for growth, bad for its own sake. Yeah, change for change's sake. Ooh, that feels icky, doesn't it, Jeanette? Innovation definitely can come out of this. Absolutely, Jana. I love that. When we have the drive for change that changes for us, yes, we change. Absolutely. Humans are incredibly selfish creatures. Tell me what's in it for me, and I'm more likely to change. Now, with that in mind, I want to share very quickly some research that isn't corporate visions. It's actually by a researcher called Michi. If anybody knows this already, so that's an Michie. If anybody knows this already, let me know in chat. But I love their research because it's simple and it's practical. So what they are talking about is what is needed to actually get a human to change, okay? And I am very simplifying their research. Please Google them. It is magical. But they came up with this model called COM-B, okay? And it's an acronym. So the first three letters equals B, which is behavior change. And I think we can all agree it's needed, but we maybe don't like it, okay? So what makes behavior change as easy as uncomfortable as it can be, okay? Different people will have different levels of comfort and ease with this. And they actually found the following things, okay? You need the three things. So this is an addition. So C plus O plus M equals behavior change. And what that is, the C is for capability. I have the skills. I know what I need to do. O is for opportunity. I have the ability, and so I have the ability or the capability to do something different. I have the opportunity or the chance to try to do something differently. And M, I am motivated to do so. Okay. Capability, opportunity, and I am motivated to do so. If you can touch upon those three things, that creates an environment where change is a little bit more comfortable. Why am I teaching you about Michi? Because our research, again, it was done by Lev Bonney. He is at Florida State University. I love that, Johnny. You're very welcome, little love heart eyes. What this research actually shows is that the impact of customer feedback directly goes to the M of Michi's model. What do I mean by that? We actually looked at feedback. It was given by three different groups of people, two sellers. Okay, group number one, customers. Group number two, their managers. Group number three, their peers. The feedback was the same. It just, the giver of the feedback changed. And what we asked once they'd heard the feedback was, how likely are you to change? How likely or how motivated are you to change? The one that motivated them the most, the customer. So adding your customer feedback there is something about hearing directly from the people that they work with, directly the people who can impact their goals and their day-to-day working life. Hearing directly from them made them more motivated to change. And having people more motivated to change just makes everything that comes after it that little bit easier. So in order of openness and how motivating they found the feedback, it was customer, manager, peer, in that order. I named them in that order for a reason when I first outlined it. So I find that fascinating. Let me know how you feel it. Maybe somebody else. I think Jessica was surprised earlier. Let me know if you're surprised again. But I find that really interesting because motivation in my role as a sales leader, when I was in that role, I'm still a leader, just of a different type of team right now. It's one of the things that is difficult to actually get going because motivation can be internal and external. But if I have sellers who, when given the same feedback just by a different person, can be more motivated to change as a result of that feedback, absolutely am I going to leverage that type of feedback? Okay, so that's number one, obtain actual customer feedback, leverage that likeliness to change. dig into that piece. And how do you dig in? You need to customize, okay? So they're receptive to the feedback. It comes from the customer. Now what? Now you all have to make it into a plan. Now, this is Bloom. I adore Bloom. He's one of my favorite researchers, and he looked into all things learning. And what Bloom does on this graph is actually look at, and I know it says students, but the students were in later stage education. So it's not children, it is early stage adults. So it is applicable to adult learning, which you are all engaged in. Now, if you think about the options that you have in terms of, right, I know what I need to change, that's come from the feedback in whatever format customer preferred. Now, how do I change? How you get people to change, how you move their capabilities, that's the C of Michi's model. You have options: conventional classroom, learning mastery, and one-on-one tutoring. So as I mentioned these, what Michi's research does and what each of these curves demonstrate is the impact on the final score. So as you can see, the students who got the most and the highest final score had received one-on-one tutoring. So in terms of that as a measurement, as a KPI, it was the most efficient. But I'm just interested in your own plans, be it for your sellers or anybody else in your organization, because I appreciate L&D spans more than just sales. Which ones of these do you naturally leverage, or which ones of these do you prioritize? Is it conventional classroom learning? Is it how they master learning? Or is it a sense of it's one-on-one? It's very much individualized, and that does include coaching, but it does include other ways of individualizing. Which one do you naturally err towards? Not to shame or say you're wrong, but just I want you to challenge. Again, if there's something that you can change, it's maybe just changing the balance of where you spend your time on these things. So let's dive into why and how you can make one-on-one tutoring come alive. Now you've used your customer feedback, because we're going to live in the world where you're using customer feedback. Now you know what to fix. How can you actually help your sellers fix that thing? So, what we are looking at right now is how there is a combination and there is a cost trade-off. Absolutely, Travis. I live in the real world. I love science. It sometimes forgets, cost and time are real. The two things I can't impact that much. Yeah. Absolutely. And Bloom was not saying that a combination is the wrong thing. That is absolutely your reality. I don't think it's an either or, it's an and. I love that, Jeanette. I'm imagining that it's a lovely Venn diagram. I think somebody mentioned one earlier. I'm a fan of a Venn diagram in lots of situations, including this one. So in our system, we absolutely see it as a combination. And it's an and. So I'm agreeing with both Travis and Jeanette, both verbally and what we do. Ooh, that's moved on too quickly, is down here. The three things that I mentioned are here. So performance boosters, on-demand coaching, and role play. Let's break it down. Now, all of this can be described simply as just in time, just enough. When I think about the kind of training that is the most impactful for sellers, it needs to be in their workflow or as close to their workflow as possible. They're not going to go looking for it. I love humans. We don't go looking for things. We want it served up to us. If you disagree with me, let me know in chat. But in their flow of work, and therefore it is just in time when they need it, or when they've maybe just been through something a little bit tricky and they want to review it. And it needs to be just enough. Like a one-day training course in the middle of my week when I'm on deadline or I'm at the end of my quarter isn't going to be helpful. I need it just to be in time. Absolutely, Ollie. I appreciate these are really tiny. They will come to you, my friend. Everybody will get the slide deck. So what we do and what we've decided to do is really lean into the just in time, just enough. And what that means is that the first thing we do is we consider how we reteach and refresh the actions and the behaviors that we want our sellers to take. And that in our world looks like boosters. Okay, that's just what we call them. They're little bite-sized videos, or they could be items to read, they could be quizzes to interact with, but they are just reminders of what is it that we want you to do? What is the optimal choice, the optimal behavior in this moment? And then, because I'm a realist and whilst I love science, I also appreciate that there is an overlap between science and reality. What we've done, this is my colleague Jim. We've actually also added in videos where experts take the concept and apply it into the messy grey area of real life, because it's not always simple, is it? So we add in those expert videos, and some of our customers do this as well. And it's not, this is my colleague because this is our internal system, but they use their colleagues, the people who are really good at this, who can bring it to life. Now, what we then do, so that's the first part, the refresh just in time of what you need in that moment. Then we move into the coaching piece. And a lot of what we teach our sellers and sellers that we work with as customers are conversation frameworks, how to maximize those conversations that really matter. And therefore, we have a series of planners that help people think about and plan for those conversations. So at this point, what that actually looks like is our sellers would create that planner, would do that initial work, and then would ask their manager, this is my colleague Nikki, to give them coaching about that. I don't think this is revolutionary. I think most of our leaders, whether they're in sales or not, are coaching. But then it gets really interesting, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. We use AI. Ooh, who uses AI within their learning at the moment? And if so, how do you use it? Who learns AI at the moment? And if so, how do you use it? It's a shame you didn't hear the video. Liz gave me some feedback. Apparently, one of her colleagues thought I had an AI voice, and I was like, no, it's just the British accent. It's fine. I'm a real human. But we use AI, and this is really interesting because we did some research with our chief science officer. That is Dr. Carmen Simon. You'll also get links to her work in the emails. And we actually looked at, is there a benefit of using AI for some level of coaching? Because, to the point made earlier, it absolutely is cost effective. Like, our leaders are expensive resources, quite rightfully so, and they have many people and time is limited. So can we use AI to coach people in a way that helps them and makes sense? We use it to give feedback on recordings for confidence, filler words, and paces. Love it, Christy. Love it. Because what our research shows, and we looked at 4 different types of feedback: an expert human, a beginner human, expert AI, beginner AI. And we looked at, they were giving the same feedback on the same role plays. And what we looked at was how receptive was the human seller to that feedback. And what we found overwhelmingly was, if you are going to leverage AI, the key place to do it is in role plays. Why? Feel safe. Feel safe. What we found is that people had more aha, or to use the scientific name, eureka moments. So they had a moment where they felt that they learned things. They were motivated. We're not sure why, we're looking into it, but they were motivated to actually repeat the process. Now, we've used this with customers, and we used it with one customer, and the average number of times that sellers willingly did this role play was 4.4. Now, that makes it feel weird, but it's a mean average. So 4.4 times. The seller who did it, who used it the most, did it 27 times. Would you ever experience a human seller saying to their manager 26 times, let's go again, let's go again, let's go again, let's go again? It's just not going to happen. So AI, when it comes to role play, and Christy, our AI does something similar to yours. Jeanette, I see that you also use local AI tools as well. That's brilliant. Our AI actually gives you feedback on 2 component parts. It is talking about the content, so it is what you said, and it also, to your point, Christy, talks about how you said it. So your energy, your tone, your tempo, your speed, and your filler words. Mine's but there we go. So if you are going to use AI, role plays is where it is. And then if you think about it, by getting your customer feedback, you just have more data, and that data can be leveraged many, many ways, okay? In individual one-on-one ways. So what that means is that a seller can actually look at this with their leader and have all of this information about what they need to change. But what we know is that we benefit most when a human helps us guide through the how. Okay. So even when we got AI feedback, after the feedback, the most bang for your buck was when a human went through your feedback with you. So you can use all of this data. So to as an individual and also as a coach to figure out what is it that I am talking about. Now, I also appreciate that sales leaders are heavily utilized. So this level of data on our system, and I would advocate that you look into this. I know I was very throwaway before. Sellers don't go looking for information. They do when it comes to customer feedback, we're finding. They interact with it and they self-solve. Because depending on how you collect the data, there is actually a lot of things that you can do with it. So you can look at all of your feedback. You can look at how compelling you were. Most importantly, you can look at the written feedback from your buyers. So you have specificity. I know what I need to change, and now I have some idea on how to change it. And you can also be inspired by your peers. But on our system, you can actually look at the best performer in a given tool. You can look at their feedback and you can see how they performed. And then finally, what you can do if you record your sales training, your sales meeting, is actually use that to identify this is what you were saying and it was done really well in this moment. So there's lots of things that our system does and that I encourage you to think about. How can you do that? Because again, understanding what needs to change from your customers leverages and increases the motivations to change behavior. But once you are motivated, you as L&D and sales enablement need to give them the capabilities, specific capabilities, just in time, just enough. Be that learning, repetition, coaching, whatever it is. But those two things need to happen. And then, of course, you need to monitor. Matt, I see your question. It is a big answer, my friend. Drop into or find me on LinkedIn your email address. We have a full answer to that in an ebook. I will send it to you. It's too long for me to verbalize. Sorry, mate, but I do see you. Okay. So finally, unsurprisingly, you need to monitor and measure it. I'm not teaching you lot anything you don't already know. As a leader, I stand by being able to see initially at a team level what needs to change is the biggest gift that I could get. Because otherwise, I'm relying on ride alongs, listening along to calls, and doing really time consuming things to get this data. Okay. So for your sales leaders, it is a gift. And for you, thinking about your strategy, it is also a gift. This is a true case study from one of our customers. This is their genuine data. It just has been scrubbed. Okay. And as you can see, what all of the competencies that they were getting feedback against is down here. The number of reps that they got feedback against, 24, because that's the number of reps that they had. And as you can see, they were actually above average on most of these things. Well done. But also they went, we're getting to a point now where we don't know what to change. You just need to think about data and flip the viewpoint because when they flipped it, the previous slide showed the feedback on deals they had won. What Sadia was collecting. No, you were collecting on losses. You would have got this data. But this is why it's so important to collect wins and losses. It is two sides of the same coin. Because when we looked at their losses, this actually came up. These are their losses. And what came up is the fact that these top two lines were below average, okay? Being a creative negotiation partner and helping your buyer justify their decision. And what did our client say to us? Well, of course, they're the lowest, Catherine. We haven't done any training on them at any level. So being able to see both sides of the data by asking both sides of the sales conversation, seller, buyer, okay, by using that to individualize your training and then being able to look at it at a strategic level. What are the gaps when we win? What are the gaps that we lose? That is how you leverage your buyer feedback to make your coaching, to make your one-on-one interventions just in time, just enough, and just about as effective as they possibly can be. So there we go. That's all. We're about 1 minute away from end, but in case you didn't know, that's my name, that's my job title, and that is is who I work for. If you would like to connect, please find me on LinkedIn. Just put in Catherine Alexander Corporate Visions, and we can all laugh at who I'm on my photo with. You can enjoy that. I bet it's made you all want to go to my LinkedIn. As I said, you will get this deck. You will. Thank you very much, Giovanni. You will get 3 links in an email along with the deck tomorrow, which is all of this research and more. So any questions, reach out to us. Liz, thank you for having us. Thank you for all joining in your chat, and please do enjoy the rest of your day.